the learning outcomes, the learning objectives. It is good to use when you prepare your exam, whether you know that there will be some conceptual questions, and you should be, maybe you can have an orientation based on learning objectives. So, absorption costing. German Vollkostenrechnung. Absorption costing assigns cost by function. What does function? Production, for example, or sales and marketing, or selling expenses, production on product, to determine product cost, and all to distinguish product cost from all the others. Variable costing. Variable costing is interesting because it distinguishes between variable and fixed cost. So it's not only by function, but it's basically a differentiation between cost behavior. And this is very much your basic study. You should be aware of that cost flow when it comes to the recognition of cost in the income statement. You have basically material cost, you have direct labor, you have manufacturing overhead. Then you have selling, administration, and all the others, including maybe research and development. Those are easy. Selling and administrative are recognized in the period when they incur. When you pay labor, when you pay rent, and so on. No problem. But cost flow, when it comes to product cost, manufacturing, is a little bit different. When you purchase raw material, there is no impact in the income statement. You purchase raw material, you capitalize raw material in the balance sheet, and at that moment nothing happens in the income statement. The same as long as you have work in process. Labor incurs, overhead incurs, and you capitalize it as part of work in process or as part of finished goods. So this is the manufacturing process. And only when you sell the products, they will be recognized in the income statement as cost of goods sold. You know, you have two basic methods for generating income statement. That's the nature of expense method on the one hand, but on the other hand, the one which we use internally much more is the cost of sales or the cost of goods sold method. And then you recognize the cost of goods sold when you recognize related revenues. And now it comes to variable costing. You have the same idea, but you have material, which is basically variable cost. You have direct labor, which is variable, and you have variable manufacturing overhead. So only variable costs flow into the balance sheet the same way as before, but fixed manufacturing overhead is treated as period cost. So fixed manufacturing overhead is not allocated to the products. A very mean question in the exam is, when it comes to multiple choice or so, that variable cost does not consider fixed, variable costing does not consider fixed cost. This is not true. Of course, variable costing income statements do consider fixed cost, but they consider them as period cost, and fixed cost, fixed manufacturing costs are not allocated to products. So this is the difference between absorption costing and variable costing. Fixed manufacturing overhead, under absorption costing, it's allocated to product cost. Under variable costing, it's treated as period expense. And now it's up to you. Short exercise to generate an income statement. Take 5 minutes. And by the way, I would very much appreciate if you have your laptops here, because sometimes I can give you an Excel file or so. We will do a lot of those small exercises, so you can do something for 5 or 10 minutes or even longer. And here in this case, please generate an income statement based on these pieces of information. Number of units produced, 10,000. Number of units sold, also 10,000. And then you have 3 pieces of manufacturing cost. Variable manufacturing cost, you have fixed manufacturing overhead, and you have fixed selling and administration expenses. And the question is, how does the income statement look like under absorption costing? So this is the structure. You have the information before, and please generate an income statement. I will do the same. Take 5 minutes for that, please. In valuation of inventories.
Which alternative here is more practical?
So, question: what should we use? This is very helpful. I would have that discussion at the end of the full chapter. But what should we use? Variable costing or absorption costing?
Absorption is used mostly for external. And
So,
variable for internal.
this is already a very important piece of the whole answer. Under financial accounting, GAAP, absorption costing is required. So, you are required to use absorption costing anyhow. The only question for management accounting is if you use in addition variable costing, because it might give you some important additional information. This is the question, and we'll cover your issues about pros and cons during maybe the next hour. We will not conclude with this chapter today, but we'll conclude with this chapter next week.
Pros and cons.
Now, I need to increase complexity a little, because in management accounting we very much use standard costing or normal costing when it comes to fast